In this week's highlight, September and October have always been the best months to buy a car. But would a second-hand car be the right one for you? And would the idea of an auto loan ever cross your mind? We'll find out. In the first half of this year, more than 1.05 million second-hand vehicles were traded nationwide. The 22% year-on-year increase nearly equals the growth rate for new car sales in the country. As the used car market is booming, this week Cai Jue finds out how the new trend is going for the local used car market.
Among the 1.05 million used cars sold in the first 6 months of this year, nearly half of them were passenger cars. This sector has seen a 33% growth year-on-year, and it is around 11% higher than the average growth rate for all kinds of used vehicles.
Since 2000, we can clearly see that passenger cars have become the growth engine for the trading of all used cars in the market. The boom in the new passenger car market in China in terms of both production and sales has greatly contributed to this trend.
In one of the busiest trading markets in Shanghai, the average age of the used cars has dropped from 8 years old to 5 years old in the recent half-decade. When used cars arrived at the trading market, some of them can be sold the next day.
The used car market is a seller's market. On average, the cars made in China can be sold within 3 days of display, while the sales of imported ones need a little more patience. But rarely you will find cars staying over 1 month.
She told us the popularity of the used cars also varies with their prices. Currently, across the country, the average price of used cars is about 47,000 yuan, 3,200 yuan higher than last year. The prices for popular cars in main cities like Shanghai are slightly higher.
Cars priced between 60 to 70,000 yuan are most popular in Shanghai, as the price of used cars with vehicle purchase tax included is just around half of that the cars sold brand new 3 or 5 years ago.
Around one-third of second-hand cars now in Shanghai are sold to local residents. Another one-third go to new drivers and those from China's interior who want cars cheaper than 70,000 yuan. And the rest high-end cars are going to coastal cities. Moreover, experts say there are large amounts of used cars which have changed hands more than twice. As a car's age increases, it is more likely to be sold to residents of the inner provinces of the country.
Due to the difference between emission standards in different places in China, cars with high emission are now being sold away from the first-tier cities.
Cars for private use in China now have no age limitation as long as they pass the annual examination. Experts predict the second-hand car market will continue to grow at 20% year-on-year in terms of the trading volume. Cai Jue for Bizwatch.
One of the foreign auto groups currently testing the water in China's auto financing market is Swedish company Volvo. This week I talked to Gordon Albertson, president of the international region at Volvo Financial Services AB. Mr. Albertson is the head of Volvo's auto financing company in China. His forecast for the market seems to be a mix of caution and confidence. Why do you think it makes sense for an auto manufacturer, a group, to have an auto financing department or a separate company?
We have been active in our customer financing activities for the last 30 years in various countries, and you can see it in different steps. When we enter into very immature markets, it's very often so that there are no other financing solutions available. So we have to be there. If someone is going to grant the credit, it has to be us. That's step number one. And then gradually we're going over to another phase, at that end say that then we have the customer interface, as we call it. We have the daily control, not control, but we have the daily contacts with the customer. So we are adding value by providing other types of services. That could be insurance, that could be whatever. And we also have a good reference on the customer. We know when they have made a final payment for one product, we know when it's time for them to change it into a new one. So it's different stages depending on the matureness of the country.
Now, it definitely provides services or value to the customer, but on the other hand, how does it actually contribute to the growth of the company, of the manufacturer?
Again, as I said, if we are not, we know we're going to sell more products in China by offering credits, because the credit system or the financial system in China is not that mature. So we know that we are going to add more sales by offering credits. So that's the value for the shareholders.
Now, we've noticed in the recent years there are a couple of auto financing companies who have entered the China market, and some of them haven't been very successful. Take GM, for example. Their auto financing services only accounted for 2% of total new sales in year 2005, while in countries like the United States it accounted for almost 43%. So does it mean that the China market isn't ready for such services, or the Chinese consumers have different needs?
I think it's a bit different, and I have to go back a bit again and say GMAC I have not followed in particular, but they are mainly focusing or only focusing on passenger car industry. We are focusing only on heavy-duty trucks and commercial vehicles and machines. And that's a very big difference, generally speaking, worldwide, because buying a car, that's for bringing you and me to the office, for bringing out the family. But whereas when you buy a truck or a machine, that's a small or a big industrial project where you have to evaluate the background to see if this makes sense. And with all the infrastructure projects that's going on in this country, I would be very surprised if we wouldn't make a success with this one.
In some developed markets, auto financing companies offer a complete line of services, including down payment, contracts, loans, insurance, etc. Would this model be working in China effectively?
Not from day one, but over time, that's clearly the intention to do it. But that will mature week by week, month by month, year by year. I can't tell you today when we will have the full line of services available. But no doubt, insurance, for instance, is very important, and we have to, for many reasons, not only one of them could be to protect ourselves. We need to see to it that the trucks and machines are insured. So we need to have some sort of insurance available for the customer. Whether that should be in-house or be a combination with an insurance company, that remains to be seen.
What about risk control measures? That's also very important, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, because there's, I would say there's not really a complete or well-established risk control or risk rating system in China yet.
We don't have, to my knowledge at least, all these credit agency or the credit rating agencies in China that we can find in other countries. But we're not totally unknown to that fact. We have been in many other countries where we have the same or lack of the same system. So credit and credit control goes hand in hand. If we have a good credit control, we will have a good credit portfolio, which will allow us to grow. If we don't have it, it's the other way around. And the name of the game is to see to it that the people who are working with the customers do know the customers, do meet the customers, work locally, to get under the skin of the customer to see if we have a good customer base. And if we have that, we can continue. So we usually say that execution of the transaction is local. We have to have local people on the ground, whereas the credit decision will be very much centralized.
But that also means that at least at the beginning you'll be taking some risks, right?
Credit granting is always a question of risks. But of course, entering into new markets, it could be new categories of customers. But by the end of the day, we have a truck or we have a machine, be it in Sweden or in US or in Russia or in China, and that truck or machine has to carry out the work. That machine has to generate money that can repay us. It's the same system everywhere.
If I were a customer who wants to buy your vehicle, I actually have a couple of options. I can pay it myself, fully funded, or I can get a loan from the bank, or I can get a loan from your auto financing company. So why would I choose your service versus the bank?
I think if you have all these alternatives, you're quite lucky. So it's not very many customers who do have that in any part of the world. But I hope that you, by the end of the day, will value the way we are doing business, the way we can support your business, the way we can provide also other services like insurances and all that. We also, I think, have a bigger understanding If, I hope not when, but if you will have some shortage of working capital or you have to reschedule the credit one day or another. Let's say you have a 5-year credit, after 3 years you have a bit of a problem. I think we, with the professionalism we have in our organization, will be better equipped, not necessarily to solve it, but to understand it.
Mr. Albertson says in the future his customer base will expand from Volvo buyers to cover any auto buyer in China.